Teamwork isn't just nice to have in business, it's the undisputed competitive advantage. When your team members work as a unified force, your whole operation benefits through higher productivity, thriving creativity, and unstoppable momentum. Welcome to the Impactful Teamwork Podcast, where we share with you strategies and tactics to help you develop game-changing teams so that you and your business can make a real difference in the world.
So welcome back, everyone, to another edition of Impactful Teamwork. My name's Julia Felton, and I'm going to be your host and guide for the next 20 to 30 minutes as we discuss everything about teamwork. And I am so excited today as I have a guest on the show for you. And this is Andy Pitt, and Andy is the MD of Service Recruitment. And I really wanted Andy to come on and share some of his experience with you because he's somebody who's the most down-to-earth, unassuming leader that I've ever met. He started working for Service back in 2006, and as the good old adage goes, he loved it so much he bought the company. So I just love that. So Andy, welcome to Impactful Teamwork. I'm so delighted to have you here.
Hi, thank you. It's nice to be here. Thank you.
No, it's great. So Andy, just share a little bit about, I was always curious when I saw you bought the company. Was there something that really attracted you to Service right at the beginning in 2006? You know, because sometimes we get drawn to companies by their ethos. Was there something particular that drove you to join that organization, or was it just like, I needed a job at the time and it was the best one around?
I did need a job at the time, but I didn't want this job. I didn't want to be in recruitment anymore. I don't know how much I should say, actually. I think I started recruitment in about 1996 after spending many years in the wilderness and not knowing what I wanted to do. I left school with absolutely nothing except for one O level in English. I think it was called English Oral, so it just means I can talk. I pick a subject and just yak on about it forever. I did a lot of different weird, some horrid jobs when I was younger, and then accidentally fell into recruitment, as I think a lot of recruiters do. So I was in the Midlands at this point, so I relocated from the Midlands to Norfolk and left the recruitment job that I was doing for this large international recruiter. Went to join another smaller firm, stayed there for 12 months and set a desk up, and then I thought I've just had enough of recruitment. So I went wandering around, and down this tiny little back street, I found a little organization called Service I'd never heard of before in my life. And I went in and I saw the two guys that were sat there, and I said, look, here's my CV. Whatever you do not offer me a job in recruitment. I don't want it. I don't want to be in this industry anymore. Thank you very much. I'll just take anything else. And they took my CV and I left, and they gave me a call and said, could you come in tomorrow, please? We want to talk to you about something. I went back the next day and I thought, oh, good. I wonder what they've got for me. And they said, look, we need somebody here. We need somebody at Service. We've sort of hit a bit of a brick wall. Things are happening externally that we hadn't noticed. So they had a bit of a monopoly at first, because Service was one of only 3 recruitment companies in Norwich when it was first set up. And they were very, very successful. But then they hadn't kept their eye on the market, and lots of competition had opened up and were taking away parts of their business. So they just needed somebody with a bit of experience to come in and to see where they could help. And I thought, well, okay, I'm not doing anything. This actually sounded reasonably exciting. And they had indicated at the time that potentially they were coming up to some sort of retirement age in the future. And I just thought, well, this all lines up. Okay, let's give it a shot. And that was it. And here I am still many years.
Awesome.
Right.
Isn't that sometimes how it just happens in life? It's just a bit of a kind of coincidence that something happens and you get drawn to it. Or sometimes you don't even know why, but you're just like, I know I should take this job, or I know I should move to this house. And there's kind of no logic or rhyme nor reason for it. And I think that's perhaps sometimes the thing as leaders that we forget is sometimes we try and make everything so logical and practical. And sometimes we just got to go with that gut instinct. Is that kind of, your experience as well? Gut instinct in business is sometimes what we need.
always go with gut instinct. And I don't know all the ins and outs of it, but, since the creation of humankind, people have relied on that gut instinct. Is this right? Is this wrong? Do I run towards it or do I run away from it? Your gut instinct will always tell you the truth. So I do follow my gut instinct. And when I was sat in that meeting, my gut was saying, yeah, go on. What's the worst that can happen? So yeah, I just thought, right, let's sod it. Let's give it a try. It was good. It's been an interesting adventure.
And I think actually for anyone listening who's recruiting into teams as well, that's such a great thing to learn. I remember when I was in the corporate world, hiring somebody into my team, and in the interview, he had all the skills on paper that I needed. And I was like, no, this is absolutely the person I need. But I had that gut instinct. He wouldn't work, he wouldn't be the right cultural fit. And I overrode my gut instinct and hired him because of his skills. And he was a perfect disaster in terms of cultural fit. And the worst hire I ever met. I'm sure he was brilliant at what he did, but it's all about how did he fit into the organization? He didn't. And he was just a fish out of water in the large accountancy firm I was with. And yeah, I've always taken that lesson away and gone, you see the impact on that. And I was too arrogant at the time, if I'm honest, to want to admit that I'd made a mistake. So I kept trying to make it work, and I was trying to put a square peg in a round hole. And eventually it took my team to say, Julia, it's not working, for me to go, okay, I need to release this person. So
Yes, yeah. But we've all done it. We've all done it. We've all gone against that gut instinct, probably because, I don't know, a bit of peer pressure, other people have suggested that your gut instinct isn't right, or for whatever reason. And it always you always end up looking back going, I should have trusted my gut instinct on that one.
Absolutely.
Always.
Okay. So tell us a little bit about service. We were just talking before this. I know that one of your kind of great mantras and ethos is treat everyone the way that you want to be treated. So I'm kind of curious, what do you think you do that inspires people to want to work in your organization? I think you shared with me previously, you've got really low turnover, people super engaged. I'm sure everyone wants to know the secret sauce to success. And maybe there is a formula, maybe there's not. What's your experience of that?
I'd like, if there is a secret formula, I'd love to know what it is. I don't know. I actually had somebody contact me recently, since you and I last spoke, actually, which I think was maybe about 3 or 4 weeks. I had somebody contact me and said, I don't want to sound conceited about this. This is how the conversation went. He contacted me and said, look, I want to come and work for you. I like your management style. I like what you do, and I like the team, and I like your business. It was somebody I've known throughout business, and he likes the fact that I'm very laid back and I'm quite chilled out. I don't get too stressed about things. And I always try and hire people that are mature enough just to be able to get on with what they want to do without micromanaging. I don't want to micromanage. I don't want to manage people because it's more work for me. It's all about me having an easy life. This is what it comes down to. So if I set everybody KPIs, so you've got to do 50 calls a week, 2 visits a week, 3 registrations a week, and all that kind of stuff. Not only are they under pressure to do these targets just because I've said that's probably what works, I'm then under pressure to actually check that they've done it and then have constant catch-up meetings with them. Can't be bothered. I don't want that at all. I want an easy life, and I want my colleagues to have an easy life. And I try and allow them to have a working life that I would have liked in their situation. And again, it comes down to the mantra of treat those as you expect to be treated yourself. I want to treat them as I want to be treated myself, but I want to let them have the opportunities and the working lifestyle that I would have enjoyed when I was coming up through the ranks. If that's the right way to phrase it. Everybody has a single financial monetary target because we've got to earn money. We have to make money to survive.
Absolutely.
So everybody has a financial target. They've all got the tools to be able to get there. They all know how to get there. If they don't, there's help and there's training available. But I leave people just to get on with it. Have an occasional catch up with them whenever we fancy over a cup of coffee and a slice of cake if they need a bit of help or guidance. But just tend to leave them alone. No set holidays per year. Just take off as much time as you feel that you need. Coming to work when you want, go home when you want, work from wherever you want. You don't have to come into the office. And it just works. This kind of relaxed, flexible feel to the whole thing just seems to hit the right note. It's just working, which is good. And everybody just seems happy.
Yeah, and that's so important, right? We want to work in a workplace that makes us feel happy. It doesn't sound like your people are stressed out. I love that you're giving them, the flexibility about holidays and hours of work. I think definitely that's what we're seeing. People want more autonomy, but I don't know. In my experience, a lot of leaders actually are really afraid to do that because they are losing control in inverted commas.
Yes. You,
And
yes.
of course, that's just a perception that we control our team members. Of course, we don't control them. They've got their own minds. They're going to do what they want. But a lot of leaders that I work and see, I think, aren't brave enough to do what you're doing because they feel like they need to control everything. And actually, what
Yes.
you're clearly demonstrating is actually give people, excuse the pun, the reins, and they'll get on it and do things themselves if, given the
I
right
think so.
resources. Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I think so. And it's about making sure they understand that you're there for them when they need you, but you're not breathing down their necks constantly. So I had this person that contacted me recently about asking if they can come and work for me. They started yesterday.
Okay.
Yeah, which is great. So I've got a new team member in, and I sat in an office with him and I said, look, please, whatever you do, don't think I'm uninterested in what you're doing. He's coming in to do recruitment for us. I've got no idea about the world of IT. You probably saw me struggle. I was on mute for the first 5 minutes. He knows what he's doing. He's the expert at this. I'm not. He's done quite a lot of recruitment previously. He's got about 8 years experience. So he knows what he's doing in the business sector. He knows what he's doing with his candidates and his clients. He doesn't need me to be telling him what to do on a daily basis. So he's come in and I said, look, this is how much money you need to bring in for the first year. Crack on, get going. If you need me, I'm here. Please don't think I'm disinterested in what you're doing because I'm not. But we will catch up every now and then, once a month. I'm here if you need me, but just move on with it. Get going. Basically, do what you need to do. You know what you're doing. I don't. Everybody knows how to do things better than I do, and that's the main thing.
And that's such a great philosophy there because we always talk about hiring people better than ourselves.
Yes.
As a leader, hire people better than yourself,
Yes.
surround yourself with great talent. But how many
Yes.
leaders really want to do that? I know I was guilty. I remember winding back to when I was in the corporate world, looking at CVs and having people in and thinking, oh no, they're too good. I couldn't hire them. And actually
Yes.
now I'm more aware of what a foolish mistake that was because how they could have elevated the business to have people surrounded.
Yes.
Again, it comes back to that kind of control and people being afraid and leaders going, I can't surround myself with people better than me because God forbid I might be looking foolish.
Yes. Yeah, exactly. And I think that's it. It's a mentality, isn't it? And I think it's probably something that people learn with maturity as well. After spending a lot of years in a certain business, kind of eventually get it, I think. Everybody in service is better than I am. I couldn't do what they do. I know how to do it, but I wouldn't be as successful as they are. And that's the way I like it.
Uh-huh. And I love that humble philosophy that you have as a leader there. And just going back to that, people being experts, we were talking as well before we came on our air about the importance of putting people into roles where they shine. So just tell us a little bit about how you do that at Service.
Well, again, this is something I figured out a long time ago, working in a much larger organization where I realized that they are making people do things that aren't suited to that particular person's personality. And they're missing the trick because of rules and regulations and guides and, how the company want people to be. You have to go up through the ranks. You have to do this role and this role. And to do that role, you've got to make 1 million phone calls a day and you have to go and do this. I've got people in my team, and I'm not saying anything that they don't know, but I've got some people in my team that don't like making sales calls. And I won't make them do sales calls, but they're great at networking. They actually thrive at networking. It's their entire happy zone.
Yeah.
They absolutely love it. Loads of people don't like networking. Lots of people don't like networking. You've got to be brave to go networking constantly, throwing yourself in circumstances where you're mingling with 200 people that you don't know. But they absolutely love networking. So I have never, ever, ever asked this person to make a single phone call. They've never made a single sales phone call, yet they will go and do networking. And then I've got some people that don't like networking. So I don't get them to do networking because that's not in their comfort zone. Yes, they will all push themselves out of their comfort zones occasionally.
Sure.
But in the main, they don't have to. I'm not forcing them to. Everybody has a different skill set. Mine's drinking coffee and talking. So I have to find somewhere where I can utilize what I like to do, where I'm the happiest, to try and create business and to try and bring money in. And each one of my team, different. They've all got different personalities. They've all got different likes. They've all got different skill sets. And it's just about figuring out what that is and allowing them to do what they need to do to get the job done. So, we can't have sales days in the office. We can't have targets, generic targets that cover the whole team because everybody will do something completely different to achieve the end result. And it's just about being comfortable in understanding to be relaxed about that. If 2 people are on the phone and 2 people aren't, then don't worry about the 2 people that aren't because they don't like doing the phone thing. They'll be going to do something else at some point.
And I love that because we talked on this podcast previously about the GC index, which is a tool that I particularly use that helps people find their energy for impact. So where they add the most value and contribution to your team. And let's put people in those roles because those are the roles when people are energized and most productive. And you get into that state called flow where time seems to fly by and you've been working for hours, but it feels like 5 minutes or whatever. And so from a smart business perspective, it makes sense because we're going to get more out of our people when they're doing the things they love. And when we make people do the things that they don't love, so the network are having to do sales calls, I don't know if it's just me, but those are the things I procrastinate about and then never do. And then I can waste a whole day going, I've got to pick up the phone. And I find any excuse not to pick up the phone all day. And then a whole day's gone by and I haven't got anything done.
Yeah, exactly. And there have been occasions in businesses that I've been in where almost hitting the target becomes, for your managers, you hitting your target becomes more important than actually working on the thing you're supposed to be working on. So I've been in certain circumstances previously in some of my other businesses that I've worked at, not my businesses, other people's businesses that I've worked in, where you've made a sales call, you've picked up a job. And once you've got a job in recruitment, you need to fill that job because that's the goal. That's the money. But they've actually told me to continue doing the sales calls because those targets need to be hit and then look at filling the role later. And it's like, no, stop being so scripted. Get off the script for a little bit and let's look at what's actually happening here and focus on what we've just gained instead of trying to hit some sort of arbitrary figured target just because so you can tick your box and report back to senior management that all the team are on target for whatever it is. I don't know.
Yeah.
I just don't understand that kind of mentality. I don't get it. It's you should do whatever makes you happy as long as it reaches a result. Do what makes you happy, and if you're happy, it will be easier.
Yeah. And when you're happy, particularly in the kind of business you're in, very customer focused, customer facing, your clients are your suppliers that you need to look after and the candidates coming to you. Everyone senses that energy, right? Because there is this invisible energy in business that we don't really talk about much. But, if I call up and I'm trying to headhunt somebody and I'm happy and enthusiastic, then the person on the end of the phone is likely to be happy and enthusiastic about the company I'm telling them about versus, oh, I think you should apply for this job,
Yes, definitely. It does. It comes across in so many ways. Even if you sat in front of somebody in a meeting, if you're happy, people tend to get a little bit animated and it's good instead of just being sat there like an interested lump, I guess. If you're happy in what you're doing, it is recognized, it is spotted.
Yeah, it's actually contagious, this energy. I talk actually quite a lot about the secret energy of business, and that's what the horses have really taught me is that really the power of the invisible, the energy, the body language, everything else. But these are all
Yeah.
the subtle cues that we never really talk about in business, but people are picking up all the time and can massively impact our results, both
Yes.
positively and negatively. But
Yes.
because they're not tangible, we can't quantify them. They're not on a KPI sheet. And so
Yeah.
people don't
Yeah.
know what to do with them. But I just want to loop back to something you just said earlier on, because I think that was really important, where you said, you're giving people all of this flexibility, but people are really clear on what the purpose is and what the end game is that we need to get to. And
Yeah.
there's something that we do when I'm actually partnering with the horses is, I do some of my leadership interventions with the horses, and we call it leading from behind. And it's such a great position of empowerment where people know where they're going. You can just stand at the back and you can just guide and
Mm.
nudge them. And the way that we do that is when they actually work with the horses, we've got a couple of lines on the horse and people are literally walking behind the horse, like a carriage driving type
Okay.
place.
Yes. Yeah.
But what's so interesting about that position of leadership, and you say, "Oh, well, I don't really do very much," is actually at that position, you can see so much perspective on what's going on in your business that actually you don't have
Yes.
to move very much, but you can make a massive impact. And that's always the biggest takeaway that people get when they physically do this type of leadership, leading from behind. They're like, "Oh my God, it's not as exhausting. I just need to do a few changes of my position and the horse will go to a different
Yes.
way." And but I think the important thing about that as well is it's less energy for you, but it's more empowering for your team members. They're not having to go, "Oh, well, Andy says that we've got to get to, Birmingham tomorrow. And he says we need to take the train, but I think we should drive." Because often I think our team members have got much better ways. And you said they've got often better skills than you.
Oh,
They
yes.
know the
Absolutely.
way. Yeah, they know the way to get to Birmingham. That's best for them. And
Yes.
we might
Yeah.
not like it, but it'll work. And we have to get our ego out of
Yes.
the way.
Yeah. Definitely. That's a good thing. It's not having an ego. I definitely haven't, and I'm listening intently to what we're both saying, and I'm listening intently to what I'm saying to you, and everything all comes down to selfishly me wanting an easy life.
Mhm.
And this is what all of this boils down to, is me looking for the easy way possible. And it just that if everybody's happy, I have an easy day. And that's what it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yet
That's secret.
John, but yet we know the statistics is like, what was it the last time I looked for the Gallup statistics in the UK? Only about 13% of the workforce are highly engaged. It might even be less than that now. So what that
Okay.
means, there's so many people out there that aren't really enjoying their roles. And to me, that's
Yeah.
just a travesty. Why could
Yes. Yeah.
that happen? Yeah.
I know. Well, I mean, you spend so much time at work. Why is it not a happy place to be? It should be. I don't want to get into conversations about kind of mental health, because that's a completely different, that's several hours and several days of chat. But yeah, but there's so much focus on people's mental health these days that people should be realizing now a happy workplace is the best workplace. It's a more productive place. It's a more naturally productive place. Nothing's forced. It's more natural.
Yeah, absolutely.
Everyone should be. I'm going to go back into my office and demand that everybody's happy.
No, and I love that, because I think that's one of my philosophies. Let's just create environments where people want to be at work because they enjoy it. And that's about giving people, like
Yes.
we've talked about, those freedoms, those opportunities, the support to achieve what they want to achieve, because everyone's different. Everyone's got their own dreams and ambitions. And how do we, I think one of our roles as leaders is, how do we help our team members achieve what they want to achieve in pursuit of the overall, like you say, we've got to still keep the lights on. We've got to keep the business flourishing.
Yes.
But there is a way to align all of this together if we're just brave enough to step out the box and try.
Yeah. Definitely. And again, it's not micromanagement. It's just understanding who you've got in your team, understanding them as people.
Yeah. It's this human side of leadership, that our team members aren't robots that are, going to show up each and every day and do exactly what we say. We're not in the old industrial age of you show up on the widget line and you Because these are all people with complex lives around them nowadays. And hopefully, they bring their whole self to work and they take their whole self back from work. And we've got an obligation as an employer to often talk about this ripple impact where, my view is if people go home from work and they've had a good experience at work, now they're nicer to their spouse or their partner. And now they're
Yes, yeah.
nicer to their kids. And we create this positive ripple effect versus the negative. They go home, they slam their good old briefcase in the old days on the table or whatever it is and scream at their spouse and partner. And now they shout at their kids and now everyone's miserable. So I think there is an onus and a duty on care of us as leaders to create an environment where people thrive.
Yeah.
Oh, wow. So just before we close, I'm just curious. You shared with me as well that you were in a band. And I'm just wondering, do you see similar kind of principles happening in the band? Obviously, in the band, you've got very clearly defined roles, drummers and guitarists and singers and stuff like that. But I'm curious what you've learned from being in a band that you bring to the table.
Oh, crikey. Yeah, it's very much the principles of what I do at service. The band, not that he'd ever want to assume the role as leader, but it's kind of his band. The band was formed around him. But he has these similar principles where he wants people to come in and enjoy themselves. We've got very, very specific roles within the band. There's 4 of us at the moment. There should be 5 of us, and everybody has their thing to do. But one person makes one mistake can actually shut the whole thing down. In fact, I actually did that at the first gig I played with them. I made the most horrendous mistake, and I brought the whole thing to a close. It was the most mortifying feeling ever. But he wants people to come in and enjoy what they're doing and have fun with what they're doing. And, again, we have got no targets as such, but we've got an end goal of doing a gig. So we have to be good to be able to play this gig, but have fun while you're doing it. And if you have fun while you're doing it, you'll relax and your music will be better. People will understand the passion that's behind what we're doing and feel the vibe from the band members and have more fun and drink more. And, it's very, very similar principles. We are 4 or 5 very different personalities, but we all come together for the music, and we all have fun doing it.
Yeah, and that's
so it's about having fun and it's about being relaxed doing it, and we're left to do what we're good at. We've each got a different skill. I can play the guitar a little bit, but they wouldn't allow me to play the guitar because that's not my full skill set. We guitarists for that skill set, and we've got bass guitarists for the bass. So we all do what we're good at.
Yeah.
Very similar to here.
Yeah. And I loved actually the example you just shared there. You very kindly shared that on your first gig, it nearly all went wrong, right? Or it did go wrong. But isn't that the great thing about creating this right environment where actually, we kind of need our people. We don't want to set them up to fail. I'm not suggesting that, but we need people to experience that sometimes things go to plan. And, thankfully for most of us, nobody's going to die over it. We're not frontline employees. We've not got somebody's life in our hands. And actually, that's the only way you learn. I bet you never did that again, whatever you had done after that first gig. I bet you never did that again.
I didn't. I identified immediately what I'd done and I froze. I stopped. I brought the whole of the band to a standstill. Fortunately, as a bunch of mature business owning individuals, they all looked at me and started taking the mick out of me, which was the way to do it because the crowd had to be involved. So they handled my mistake extraordinarily well by highlighting it to everybody what I had done, but then making light of it. I knew exactly what I did, and that will not happen again.
Yeah. But in business, I think too often we don't give that space for our team members to have that experience of something not working out, or they're so afraid to even try something new for fear of it not working out. And we know that actually the only way people learn and grow and develop is to try something, have it not work, and then take the lesson like, well, I won't do that again. I don't like to call them failures because I just think they're all growth opportunities. But there's something then tantamount to us as leaders to create that environment where we create those growth opportunities for people. And it's rare that many of us are in business, hopefully most of us aren't in a situation like a Nick Leeson where mistakes took down the whole company. For most of us, it must be a disgruntled customer or supplier or something. And, we can retro and fill that back in again. It's not ideal, but that's what happens. Because we're all fallible, right? We're all fallible. And actually, the worst things are the team members who just try and cover up when they get wrong, when something doesn't go to plan. And then you discover it way down the line. You're like, oh, my God. And actually, you've got a bigger problem then than if they'd been up front and felt that they could share it in the moment. So,
yeah, exactly. I'm open to the honesty of my colleagues. And, something goes wrong, let's sit and talk about it. Let's have a look. Let's backwards engineer it. Why did this outcome happen? What actually went wrong? And you pick through and it's so easy to see what happened and it's so easy to make changes. Yeah, don't do that again, really. You won't do it again because that was a horrible situation. The other thing I find important as well, just on the opposite side of the coin to what you were saying, is analyze your successes as well. So I think people are very quick, and so they should be, to analyze issues, to analyze problems, failures, whatever you want to call it. But nobody tends to have a look at why something was successful. So why did that work so well? Why have you had such a good month? What happened? What was the run up to this fantastic month you just had? Let's have a look at it. Let's backwards engineer that. And let's see where this went right. I think it's just important to look at the successes as well as just looking at the things that maybe didn't go so well.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. And it's the biggest thing when people come and work with the horses is I make them do loads of celebration when their team member successfully leads the horse around an obstacle course. I'm like, let's celebrate, let's clap and applaud because we're not good in business about celebrating those successes. And like you say, reverse engineering, what made that work? What was this driven by? And it's such an important energy to bring to the business, those successes. So, wow. Okay.
Yeah.
Wow,
Cool.
Andy, I've wanted to thank you. Is there anything else you want to add? Because I'm just conscious we've been riffing for. Is there anything you wanted to share?
No, I can't think of anything. Always think other people are more fascinating and interesting than I am. So I wouldn't have a clue what to share or if anybody would be interested in anything at all. So I shall politely say no, thank you. I have nothing to share.
Right. Well, I wanted to thank you so much for those really, really candid insights that you've shared with us about how you lead and about the culture at service recruitment, because I think there's so many lessons that our listeners can take away about your releasing of control and lack of ego and how that creates this amazing harmonious environment that your team members just feel really empowered and then driven to get things done way more than perhaps even you thought was possible by getting people, in the right roles, doing the right things, giving them that ability to get on with the job without micromanaging them and not being worried about the consequences, but you're trusting your people so much that they're going to get it done and you're there to support and guide them if they need it. And I think that that's such a great philosophy for us all to take away as leaders. So I thank you so much for your time. I've totally enjoyed talking with you. And it's been such a pleasure to have you here on the show. And for everyone else, all the listeners listening in to this week's edition of Impactful Teamwork, I really hope you've enjoyed what Andy shared with you. If you'd like to connect with him, you'll find him on LinkedIn. And until next week, I hope you have an amazing week and implement some of the strategies and tactics that Andy shared with us today. And I'd love to hear your thoughts on that. Okay, everyone, take care. Bye-bye.
Thanks for listening to the Impactful Teamwork podcast. Please stay tuned for future episodes and do subscribe wherever you get your podcasts. If you've enjoyed this episode, please leave a rating on your favourite platform. Recommendations are essential for attracting new listeners. Please follow us on social media at Julia Felton and at Business Horsepower. And if there are any topics you'd like us to cover on future episodes, please do let me know. Remember, you and your team are always making an impact. What impact will you make today?